So many of us have been saying yizkor for so many years, and yet every year we come into shul and we wonder, why is everyone taking so much longer than we are? Or am I really saying the right thing? Do I know what I'm doing? This is kind of a little bit strange, right? I've been saying yizkor now for over 26 years, and I decided it was time to learn and make sure that I knew what I was doing, and I figured I would share everything I learned with you. So here it is, a video that will hopefully answer the most commonly asked questions. I'm Rivkah Kohn. I run Links of Shlomie's Club, which is for children and teens who've lost a parent. I lost my mother at age 9, my father this year, and this should be an aliyas neshama for both of them. You're more than welcome to share this information. Yizkor is said on Yom Kippur, Shmini Atzeres, the last day of Pesach, as well as the second day of Shavuos. These are, of course, the dates for outside of Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, it is said on Shvi Shel Pesach, the first day of Shavuos, and of course Yom Kippur and Shmini Atzeres as well. Yizkor is said only by those who have lost a parent, traditionally. There are two paragraphs, one for those who lost a father, one for those who've lost a mother. There are those who say for other relatives as well, particularly those who lost relatives of Kiddush Hashem, like in the Holocaust. There are several paragraphs there, so I'm just pointing that out. But for this video, we will be focusing on those who've lost a parent. The first paragraph that we say is the actual paragraph of Yizkor, Yizkor Lechem Es Neshmas, and we either say our mothers or our fathers. If a person lost both parents, they say both paragraphs, first one and then the other. When we use our parent's name in that paragraph, right, it usually says Pei, Beis, Pei, which basically means Pliny, Ben Pliny, or Plainis, Bas, right? And in most communities, we use the father's name, meaning to say, if we're saying our deceased parent's name, Ben or Bas, their father's name. That is what the general minhag is. In some Hasidic communities, they do say Ben or Bas, the mother's name, so find out what your particular custom is. After that, there is the Kel Malei Rachamim that we say for the parent as well. Sometimes there's a Mishabeirach for somebody in the shul, and where they say their own like collective yizkor or specific yizkor, and then the congregation together will say Av Harachamim, and then they let the people back in. There are a lot of questions surrounding who goes out, where do they go, how far from the space that people are davening do they need to go. So I'm just going to point out that yes, the main reason why they leave is because of Ayin Hara. However, there are many other reasons, and specifically those to allow the mourners the space to be able to have their space to grieve. They come back in after Av Harachamim. In the paragraph of Yizkor, we promise that in the schus for this person's neshama, we will be giving tzedakah. It is not important how much a person gives, although if they have the means, there are a lot of sources that say it is a greater schus for them to give more if they do have the means to do so. Other than that, you can give any amount as long as we remember to fulfill that pledge. That is the most important thing. Really doing it Matzah Yansef is ideal. If you can go on to any organization's either webpage or hotline or stuff like that and donate right then, that's the best way to do it. But of course, a person can fulfill the pledge as long as they fulfill it, even if a little bit of time elapses. I want to raise two things that those who don't say yizkor can still be helpful to those who do say yizkor. Number one is, if you're leaving the shul and you want to talk to your friends, that's okay if you're outside of the building. If you're standing in a hallway where you're going to be heard, it is extremely painful for those in the shul to hear a bunch of loud chatter and laughter outside the door when they are inside grieving what they're missing. That's number one. Number two is, if you see any children in shul, assume that they're there for a reason. Never ask a child or a teen, do you realize it's yizkor, you need to leave? They are there for a purpose. It is extremely painful to any of the children and teens that I work with who have the stories of people tapping them on the shoulder and going, Mama, are you sure you should be here? Yes, they should be here. The tradition in some places was to say kinder areis, children out. That tradition has mostly been eradicated in most communities. If it still exists in your shul, I suggest bringing that up because it has been extremely, extremely painful to many. Additionally, one last point. Many of us rush to shul to say yizkor with a minyan, and especially during the pandemic, people learned this, but this is true for all times. Yizkor is not a tefillah that requires a minyan. It is preferable if a person can to say it with a minyan, but it is not like Kaddish. It can be said even if you are just at home doing this yourself. Also know that there are certainly difficult times where people have a hard time saying yizkor for one reason or another. If you're working through that, just know it can take time and you will get to it when you get to it. Again, feel free to share this video with anyone who can benefit, and may all of us know true comfort, true nechama.